A very warm good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I would like to congratulate Shri Guru Buddhiswami Mahavidyalaya Purna for organizing this national level webinar on research methodology and assigning me this particular topic titled as Ethics in Academic Research. Honorable Principal Sir, Dr. K. Rajkumar Sir, convener of this event, the organizing secretary, Professor Dr. Sanjay Dalvi Sir, joint organizing secretary, my friend, Dr. Prakash Bhange Sir, and all the participants of the organizing institution and from the Pan-India institutions as well. Friends, as we are into this academic world, performing our duties and responsibilities in the capacity of a teacher and a researcher as well. As Honorable Principal Sir has already pointed out about a few takeaways that you should always remember about the academic research and the ethics as we are expected to follow, I think this topic is really a very burning issue of the day. If you really look at the entire academic research scenario in our country, and when you compare and contrast this scenario with the American universities, European universities, and a few very top-rated universities in the world, you will realize that where do we really stand and why are we really lagging in the respect of academic research. So the topic, that is ethics in academic research, is definitely going to give you something today that you should remember forever. And I would suggest not only to remember this, but to follow this in your practical life as an academician and even as a researcher. Friends, the topic itself has two keywords. One, the ethics, and other, the research. Let us begin with a larger perspective and try to understand what do you mean by research in nutshell, so that I'll be able to provide you some inputs on the ethics which are expected over there in the domain of research. Whenever we look at research as a whole, you will find that any kind of research, whether it is scientific research or else the research done in humanities or else the research done in any other area of knowledge. So in nutshell, this research is a systematic investigation for pertinent information on a specific topic. So the specific topic may be for your research at PhD level. Anyway, recently UGC has scrapped MPhil courses, or else any specific topic that you take up for major research project or minor research project, or even you take up a specific topic for developing your research article, whatever it may be. But from an academician, it is expected that when you are doing any research activity, it should be done in a very systematic manner with a proper investigation for the pertinent information on the specific topic that you have taken. But is it really limited to? It also demands something more. And when you do certain research, you are expected to be very careful about doing your inquiry, specifically through search for facts in any branch of knowledge that you have taken up. And most of the times it is seen, if at all you really go through some of the research papers, that the researcher really fail to talk about the facts. The kind of assumption that we have in the beginning and the kind of conclusion that you provide at the end, in between, a researcher is expected to deal with some of the facts and reveal the fact to the person who is seeking knowledge from your research. So in general, you can say the kind of research that you take up, it is a kind of academic contribution from your end to the existing stock of knowledge, and you are trying your level best to make it for certain advancement in the domain knowledge. Because once you take up a topic, you try your level best to do some systematic investigation. You try to retrieve the pertinent information as required for the specific topic. You also find out certain facts in this respect and try to put forward these facts to your audience. But beyond that, as a whole, when you look at your contribution, which is an academic research contribution from the end of a researcher, you will find that the researcher is going to contribute something. It may be trifle, it may be major, whatever it is, depend on the kind of research that you are doing, and you are trying to make certain advancement in the domain knowledge. So finally, if you really want to conclude this particular point, I would say that any kind of academic research that you take up, it is actually a pursuit of truth. And of course, this is not only the pursuit of truth, but this kind of pursuit of truth is done with the help of a systematic, proper study, certain observations that you make as an individual researcher. You also undertake some of the experiments, if at all the topic demands. And finally, you come to your findings and conclude your research. But when you holistically look at it, you will find that all kinds of academic research demands your commitment, involvement, and the kind of approach that leads to some ethical issues as well. And so I really appreciate the organizers for giving me this topic, ethics in academic research. So after knowing something about, in brief, about what is research, let us lead this topic for further stage and try to understand what do you mean by ethics. Actually, the term ethics itself is a very vast term. It itself is a branch of knowledge that deals with the moral principles and the moral values of an individual, of a group of people, of a community, of a society, of a state, of a country. Altogether, I would say, of a culture and a civilization. But of course, we are not going to deal with this topic to that level. Our concern is how to be so ethical as far as research work is concerned. So when you talk in general about this concept, about this term called ethics, I would say, like, you have certain moral principles in your own life. Sometimes we say, like, he is very morally strong, or he is very ethical in his practices. What does it mean? It means that the moral principles or the moral values that you have cultivated in the course of time, that you have nurtured in the course of time as the part and parcel of your personality, that actually govern a person's behavior. See how these two things are getting connected. Because you have the moral values, moral principles, your own set of ethical standards that you adopt, that you adhere in your own life. But in the course of time, what happens? These moral values and principles actually govern the individual's behavior and his or her own conduct of an activity. So if you are ethically strong, it will reflect in your personality. If you are morally sound, it will reflect in the way you conduct any kind of activity. And when you talk about the research activity, it will definitely reflect. Already, Honorable Principal Sir Rajkumar Sir has pointed out that how the quality of research is degrading day by day. In the numerical point of view, it is increasing. But in the qualitative point of view, it is decreasing. So this is really a matter of worry for all the academicians and researchers like you and me. And whenever you talk about ethics, this ethics or moral principles is actually a separate branch of study. It is a branch of philosophy that involves systematizing and defending and recommending concepts of right and wrong behavior of an individual. See here, this aspect is very, very important. As I said, ethics or moral principles may be related to your own personal life. Unless you are personally ethically sound and morally strong, how do you expect that these values will reflect in the act that you do as a teacher or as the act that you do as a researcher? So when you take it up as a branch of philosophy, and the branch of philosophy involves systematizing, defending, and recommending concepts of what is wrong and what is right kind of behavior. Sometimes you might have seen in your own company that we are really afraid of taking a proper stance, a proper stand. Just introspect for a minute or two and ask yourself, for how many times did you take the stand for the wrong things? And how many times did you take the stand for the right things? Sometimes we know that something is really right, but we are afraid to take a firm stand. It indicates that the kind of counseling is really needed to that individual as far as ethical and moral values are concerned. And these values definitely reflect in an individual. In general, when you try to correlate this ethics or the domain knowledge of ethics or the philosophical world of ethics, you will realize that ethics refer to the rules provided by an external source. Mind it well. Do you think that the ethics are really introduced by an individual? No. Either they are cultural values or social values or professional values or the family values. It means these are the rules which are promoted by or provided by the external sources and resources. So it is the responsibility of an individual, maybe a teacher or an academician or a researcher, to accept and to adopt and to adhere the code of conduct in your workplace and be a principled kind of personality as far as your teaching is concerned and research is concerned. And once you have your own values, once you have your own principles, never forget that you should never compromise with the set of values and the set of principles that you have really prefixed for yourself. So again, in nutshell, I would like to say that this ethics is the branch of study that actually addresses the questions about justice and morality. I hope all of you know, if at all the justice is delayed, it means justice denied. Here also you have the ethical and the moral issues. As far as our personal life is concerned, we have our own moral values, we have our own social values, we have our own cultural values. And these cultural, social, and personal values actually create your own aura of personality. And when in general you talk about it, I mean to say the field of ethics, if you try to correlate this aesthetics, you will realize that the field of ethics, along with aesthetics, concern the matters of value and the values of an individual as well. And these fields, means the field of ethics, the field of aesthetics, these fields comprise the branch of philosophy that you call axiology. But is it really limited to? If at all you get into all these philosophical implications, as you know very well, philosophy is an abstract realm. If you don't want, don't get into that. But as a matter of fact, without philosophy, you cannot also live your own life. And here, whenever we talk about the ethics and values, I think we need to really talk about certain codes of ethics as well. Now you can distinguish between what are the professional values and what are the personal values. Once you are in a position to differentiate and distinguish between the personal values and the professional values, and then you will also have certain values called research values, automatically you will come to a better understanding that how do I distinguish my personal life with the professional life and with the research acts as well. And whenever you talk about the code of ethics, I would like to, you could see on your screen now, I have pointed out a few of the code of ethics. Now you try to interrogate yourself, where do you stand as an individual? Integrity, professional competence, confidentiality, objectivity, and professional behavior. Now I am trying to dissociate the personal matters with the professional matters. Just try to separate it. Just try to dissociate it. Now you question yourself. What is the level of your integrity for the research activity? What's your commitment? What's your dedication for your own profession? Question yourself. What is your professional competence? Honorable Principal Sir has specially pointed out, when he met me in 1997 as Mr. Vittal Gore, and after 10 years or so, again he happened to meet me in the university as Dr. Vittal Gore, and today he could see me as a resource person, not for one session of this kind. This is going to be my 92nd professional presentation that I have done in Pan America and more than 10 states in the country. It shows your professional competence. Ask yourself what you are. Ask yourself what is your commitment and dedication for your profession. Ask yourself, how do you improve your own level of competence day after day? Here I do remember a couple of lines from the poetry section. First make a better you. First make a better you. First make a better you. Why search for love and laughter? First make a better you. So here, These couple of lines tell you about you are already good. Try to improvise yourself and come to the next stage. Try to be better. Once you are better, of course, we have the third stage, that is being the best. And if at all you are in this flow, on this particular path of improvement and development, gradually your professional competence will go higher and higher. Similarly, what is your confidentiality when you work as a professional? What is your confidentiality when you work as a researcher? And how you really prove to be very, very objective and create sort of objectivity in your own path of career, that will actually decide your professional behavior altogether as a teacher, altogether as a researcher, altogether as an individual as well. If you correlate the things with your personal values and ethics, and then your professional values and ethics, automatically the aura of your personality will grow day by day, and your aura will automatically be realized by the people around. But here, I would like to take up this particular topic to the next stage now. Let us discuss research ethics with a focused approach. What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to remember? And what are we supposed to really follow and adhere in our personal life as a teacher, as a researcher? And then you see the outcome will definitely be different. As far as research ethics are concerned, all the research ethics that you really adopt in your personal academic research life, they involve the application of fundamental ethical principles while doing certain research activity. Already I said, we do different research activities. You develop a research paper, you do some sort of minor or major research project, you get involved into the thesis writing for your DLET or PhD degrees. So here you have a lot of opportunity or a wide scope to involve these ethical values, put them into reality and make them your fundamental ethical values. And while doing so, you need to include the design and implementation of research, and especially you need to remember that how they are really very useful to the society, to the state, to the country, and others as well. Because we undertake a research project, we have our own resources, we use multiple resources. But now the question is how far you are committed for your own research and how far you are trustworthy while using various resources which are available at your disposal. Because now we are living in the highly sophisticated, technologically advanced world. Already we have completed 2 decades of the 21st century. Technology, internet, computer, laptop, smartphone, all these things, digital things or digital products have really made this entire world as a small village. The whole world is well connected with the help of internet today. Right? So, e-content is available, e-resources are available, but now the question is, as it is also raised by Honorable Principal Sir, that how far we are trustworthy while using these resources. And when you really see that somebody is very ethical about the use of resources, automatically the outcome, the research outcome will also be equally good. In addition, I will also discuss about the scientific misconduct and the kind of regulation which is introduced by the UGC that we have to follow while doing certain research. And that's the reason that all of us are, very careful about publishing our research papers in UGC care listed publications or journals. We are very particular to see whether the journal is really doing the peer review process or not. We need to be so particular that when I am going to submit a paper, whether I myself have properly really given a justice to the topic or not. So that actually makes a good researcher for the society, for the state, for the country. So when you look at this area, that is research ethics, as I said earlier also, it actually governs the standards of the conducted research by a researcher. If you are ethically strong, if you are ethically and morally sound, automatically all these values will reflect in the kind of research that you undertake. But mind it well, just to be acquainted with the research values is not sufficient. You need to actually adhere to these ethical principles in order to protect the dignity, rights, and welfare of research participants. You might have heard about such kind of happenings around, especially in the domain of science and technology, that somebody is done by an individual, but unfortunately when the outcome comes, that person is ignored, he is not given certain credit. And automatically it leads to the legal issues. Here, the point is, ethics are a personal code of conduct based on the respect for oneself, others, and surrounding. Unless you individually is really a very principled personality, how can others really expect from you that you will coordinate, friendly, and professionally deal with the research matters? So whenever we talk about the ethics, as I said just before, that the ethics are a personal code of conduct. A few codes that I adopted, these are my personal values, professional values. If at all you have your own set of values, they are your own code of conduct and the professional, personal values. But while living together, working together, we need to respect for oneself those who are around us. We need to respect others. We need to respect the people around us and contributing for the betterment of the society and for the improvement of the research. We should give them due credits. As a matter of fact, ethics are actually governed by the principles and assumptions underpinning the way individuals or organizations ought to conduct themselves. See the larger side of ethics. And that's the reason that the ethical considerations in research are a set of principles that guide your research design and practices. Now, gradually, I am leading to the core of my talk today so that these personal values and ethical values will be gradually continued with your research and academic values as well. So the ethical considerations in research or any kind of research activity that you take up are actually a set of principles that guide your research design and practices as well. So here you have the research ethics that actually involves the application of fundamental ethical principles to research activities that you undertake. It also includes in the design and the implementation of certain research that you take up. It respect towards the society and others. And just to say a core of it, it also provides you a platform to use the resources and the research outcomes by remembering or by keeping in mind the kind of scientific conduct and misconduct that you do, and the regulation of research as imposed by the law of the nation or any apex body like university, grants commission, and so on. So friends, now I just put an effort from my side to let you know how this research activity is really related to your personal ethics, professional ethics, and research ethics. But as a matter of fact, I would like to say, unless you are personally strong, I mean to say ethically and morally strong and sound, it will never reflect in your personality as a professional, and it will never reflect in your research activities as well. Now, try to understand what is the goal of ethics in research. Gradually, I am trying to expand the boundaries of our discussion today. And definitely by the end of this presentation, you will be fully convinced that yes, we have to have a very proper professional approach while dealing with these things. So let us look at that slide which is flashed on your screen. So whenever you talk about the goal of ethics, my dear participants, you need to really look into this matter, that the goal of ethics in research is to guide the researcher to evaluate several things that you have. What are these things then? What are these things? These things are the question that raises in front of a researcher, that what the researcher is going to do in his research. Means, what are they researching? What is the research project taken for? What is the objective of your research? Are they testing the subject in the best way? Are they following the proper protocol as expected for the respective research? Is the study which is undertaken by the researcher, okay, having its own level best in the interest of the society? And similarly, you need to count it whether the rights of the respective subject are being protected by you, an individual, or not. Unless the researcher is going to address all these goals, I would say the research will never be ethical. Let us proceed and try to understand from this particular slide. I put an effort to highlight a few research ethics, and now you could see this slide and then one more slide of this kind will let you know what are the research ethics as a whole. I hope you know honesty is the best policy. Now question yourself how honest you are to yourself. Question yourself, how honest are you for others? Question yourself, how honest are you for your profession? And very particularly question yourself, how honest are you while doing any kind of research, whether it is for a research article or for a major or a minor research project, or maybe for your own thesis development. Question yourself. Automatically, your own research values, ethical values, moral standards will reveal the fact and let you know where do you really stand. Earlier also I discussed about integrity, objectivity. Okay. I'll not discuss about these two things again because I just included it because these are the integral part and parcel of the research ethics. Let us talk about the informed consent. Sometimes we do adhere, we do follow, we do take few things from others, and we do give due credit to them in the respective document. At least they are referred to in our bibliography or else in the reference section, in the works cited section. But if at all you are going to use somebody's scientific formula, don't forget to take the proper consent from the individual. Don't forget to give him the due credit. Don't forget to involve that person into your research activity. Similarly, be very, very ethical as far as beneficence is concerned. Be very particular about the non-malification of the person's identity. Be very responsible for the kind of publications that you do. Because if at all you are getting benefit for certain, what are these things? These things are the question that raises in front of a researcher, that what the researcher is going to do in his research. Means, what are they researching? What is the research project taken for? What is the objective of your research? Are they testing the subject in the best way? Are they following the proper protocol as expected for the respective research? Is the study which is undertaken by the researcher, having its own level best in the interest of the society? And similarly, you need to count it whether the rights of the respective subject are being protected by an individual or not. Unless the researcher is going to address all these goals, I would say the research will never be ethical. Let us proceed and try to understand from this particular slide. I put an effort to highlight a few research ethics, and now you could see this slide and then one more slide of this kind will let you know what are the research ethics as a whole. I hope you know honesty is the best policy. Now question yourself how honest you are to yourself. Question yourself, how honest are you for others? Question yourself, how honest are you for your profession? And very particularly question yourself, how honest are you while doing any kind of research, whether it is for a research article or for a major or a minor research project, or maybe for your own thesis development. Question yourself. Automatically, your own research values, ethical values, moral standards will reveal the fact and let you know where do you really stand. Earlier also I discussed about integrity, objectivity. I will not discuss about these two things again because I just included it because these are the integral part and parcel of the research ethics. Let us talk about the informed consent. Sometimes we do adhere, we do follow, we do take few things from others, and we do give due credit to them in the respective document. At least they are referred to in our bibliography or else in the reference section, in the works cited section. But if at all you are going to use somebody's scientific formula, don't forget to take the proper consent from the individual. Don't forget to give him the due credit. Don't forget to involve that person into your research activity. Similarly, be very, very ethical as far as beneficence is concerned. Be very particular about the non-malification of the person's identity. Be very responsible for the kind of publications that you do. Because if at all you are getting benefit for certain research, and a few people are already involved in the process of your research, you need to extend the benefit to others. But unfortunately, sometimes what happens? The genuine work is done by an individual, and unfortunately somebody else takes away the credit. It might have also happened sometimes when you work in an organization. You do wholeheartedly, but the credits are taken away by somebody else, whereas they have no contribution at all. So when you feel bad in your workplace or elsewhere, wherever the credits are not given, don't you think that if at all you are doing some research activity and the people are not really giving you due credit, you feel bad? So here we need to be very, very responsible while doing our publications. And if at all you are really following certain ethical values, standards and moral values and standards, automatically it will reflect in your research as well. And while doing all these kinds of research activities, the most important thing is we should really protect the anonymity. We should maintain the confidentiality. We should never be doing any sort of discrimination. We should keep our mind open for all sorts of things, all sorts of criticism, that we should be open-minded to accept it. And the most important thing in the research field is you should give due respect to the IPR, intellectual property rights. Never get into the legalities, mind it well, my dear participants. You may feel that I am getting certain credits for the publication, but if at all you are not giving due respect to the intellectual property rights, maybe at a lateral stage, you may be into a difficulty. A few years ago, I hope all of you are aware of that a professor has to forego his vice chancellorship only because of some of the violations which took place in his research publications. It means probably he himself or his colleagues, those who have done that research together, they did not give due respect for the intellectual property rights. Some content was plagiarized, it was highlighted, it came into limelight. There was a lot of, propaganda of this kind. The person under moral impression, he has to resign from the post of a vice chancellor. Now the question is how far we give justice to the work. Now the question is, how do you really justify your own research work? And while giving credit to certain people or using their material, using their references, using their content, whether you are following the rules of regulations, especially provided in the IPR, and whether you are really conscious of plagiarism or not. So the main purpose of this talk is to remind you about plagiarism. The main purpose of this talk, because title itself is ethics, is to make you aware about plagiarism. The final suggestion over here from the organizer side, from my side, would be avoid plagiarism. Let us try to understand now a few more very important aspects which are well connected to your research activity and how to really execute this research activity in the very, very ethical point of view. But unfortunately, there are so many people, as Honorable Principal Sir has already pointed out, that fabrication is happening, falsification is happening, plagiarism is taking place. The people are just claiming that this is their own, but they have already taken up something from the internet, something from Wikipedia, something from this or that website. And in this respect, the United States of America has a unit called National Science Foundation, and they have defined types of misconduct in 3 different categories. What are these categories? Number 1, fabrication. Number 2, falsification. Number 3, plagiarism. Let us try to understand all these 3 terms which have been defined by National Science Foundation, United States of America, and I would say these observations can also be applied to the Indian scenario. What are these three terms? And how this US organization is going to define that? As far as the, excuse me, as far as the fabrication is concerned, fabrication means making up the data or results. It means you are, doing something, some sort of fabrication with either the data or the results which are actually the outcome of some other researcher. Whereas you have falsification. Falsification means the manipulating the research material, research equipment, or the research process, or changing or omitting the data or the results which are the outcomes of the previous research done by somebody else, and here you falsify the things. You falsify the things such as the research is not accurately represented in the research record. It means altogether you prove to be a kind of, falsified personality, or a personality who has created some sort of falsification in the process of research activity. And then the third term is there, which is very crucial for all of us. Actually, all these three terms are crucial for all of us. These are the key takeaways for the day. You should never fabricate, you should never falsify, you should never plagiarize. What do you mean by plagiarism? Plagiarism is presenting someone else's work or the ideas as your own. It means you claim that actually something belongs to somebody else, but you claim that this is your outcome, this is your product, this is your introduction, this is your research. If at all you do it, it means you are plagiarizing with the things. Your research is not a genuine research. So plagiarism is presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own, with or without their consent. Sometimes you take their consent, use it and claim that it is yours. Sometimes you don't take their permission, use it and claim that it is your own. By incorporating it into your work, into your research document, without the proper full-fledged acknowledgement. But my dear participants, I would like to tell you, very specially I highlighted on your screen in red color, that plagiarism, whether it is intentional or unintentional, it is unethical, it is against the law, and it can take you either to certain penalty or even behind the bars if at all it is that much serious. Now let us get into the another side of ethical standards. Because one side I told that the people falsify the things, the people fabricate the content, the people plagiarize with their use of others' material. But here, now the question is how far you are intellectually honest. Maybe earlier I used this statement, honesty is the best policy. Be honest to yourself, be honest to your workplace, means professional honesty. Be honest to your research, means your intellectual honesty. Our moral duty is to be honest. Mind it well, all the cultures promote honesty. And that's why this statement is very much in the air. We do like it, that honesty is the best policy. Just adopt it, you will realize how the impression of your personality is growing day by day. How the aura of your personality is growing and improving day by day. But first of all, you should be honest to yourself, honest to your profession, honest to your research and intellectual activity. Automatically, your identity will be something different than others. Don't compare and contrast, but automatically the whole world will begin comparison, that कोण होतास तू, काय झालास तू. What you were in the past and what are you in the present and what will you be in the future, that also be calculated and foresighted by an individual. As far as intellectual honesty is concerned, intellectual honesty in proposing, performing, reporting research, which actually refer to the honesty with respect to the meaning of one's own research. If you are intellectually honest, you will never falsify the matter. If you are intellectually honest, you will never fabricate the matter. If you are intellectually honest, you will never like plagiarism. Because these things are interconnected. And of course, it is expected that the researcher present the proposals and the data honestly. If at all it is his own, he will claim that it is his own. And he will communicate the best understanding of the work in writing and sometimes in verbal form also, if at all needed. When you develop your research paper, when you develop your thesis, when you write your thesis, you are responsible for everything that you write, that you submit, that you say, that you discuss. Whatever point that I am discussing now in this presentation, by the end of my presentation, you will come across a reference list. Because the ideas that I cherished, that I discussed, maybe already provided by, already promoted by, already discussed by others. I am trying to bring them together in a systematic way and trying to put forward in front of you so that you will understand what do you mean by ethics in academic research. That is intellectual honesty. Intellectual honesty is the honesty in acquisition, honesty in analysis, honesty in transmission of ideas, honesty in writing, honesty in verbal talk that you give on your research. So finally, a person who is being intellectually honest, when he or she knows the truth, states that particular truth in the form of writing and even in the verbal form. Now let us go further. Let us talk about the third important aspect of this particular point. Research integrity. Earlier also we had a reference. But now with these 2 points, I would like to conclude some of the major aspects related to this one, and I will lead to the conclusion of my talk today. As far as research integrity is concerned, research integrity means conducting research in such a way that allow others to have confidence in the researcher. It will create a vote of trust for the researcher, for the method that you adopted, the kind of analysis that you have done, the kind of interpretation that you have done, the kind of findings that you have brought out, and finally the way you really conclude your research. If you are dedicated, committed, honest, you are not falsifying the things, you are not fabricating the things, you are not plagiarizing the material, automatically your research integrity will reach out to its pinnacle. It will attain its own height. But check it. How far ethical, how far moral are you as far as research activities are concerned? When you talk about it, you need to relate, or it actually relates both to the scientific integrity of conducted research and to the professional integrity of a researcher. But I would like to add one more thing from my side. Unless you are really, showing that integrity for your own self, it can never be extended to profession. It can never be extended to research as well. So finally, integrity for the self, research integrity for the self, research integrity that you need to reflect in your outcome, and you need to have scientific integrity as well while conducting any type of research that you have taken up for your own study. So friends, now I would like to tell you the actual mantra of ethics in academic research. These are the 11 ethical principles that everybody has to follow without fail. Of course, we are the biological products of our parents, but actually we are the intellectual product of our teachers, and we are the social product of the society. Of course, we have something that we need to return to the society. Our duty to society is to be the top priority. Beneficence not to the individual, not to the researcher only, but even to the people, those who are involved in the process of research. Try to give certain benefit even to the counterpart. If at all there are any conflict of interest, try to resolve the conflict of interest at the earliest. If you extend it, probably it will take you to the court of law. If at all you are doing any sort of research, always take consent from the people concerned. If at all 2 or 3 people are coming together doing sort of research, see that they are officially providing their consent for the research, and if at all somebody is willing to dissociate from the research activity, he or she is free to do so. If you are using somebody's content, keep them informed. Don't simply claim that it is yours. So by considering all these factors, it will create your research integrity, as I have discussed just before. And non-discrimination should be the principle of a researcher. Never discriminate the things. If you discriminate the things, it means you are biased. You have to have a balanced approach. You have to have a positive attitude. You should create an equilibrium when you address to any research potential area. Most important thing, non-exploitation. Never exploit anybody. Probably you might have seen Jaspal Bhatti's flop show. Several episodes are talking about how the research guides are exploiting their scholars. Okay, it was just presented in a very funny way, but there are the harsh realities of life also, that the scholars are being exploited in different ways by their guides. I'm not saying all are doing so, but there are a few cases as reported in different universities throughout the country and abroad as well. As far as research ethics are concerned, we have to maintain privacy. We should be very confidential. As far as research activity is concerned, we have to maintain that confidentiality. We have to improve our professional competence. We have to have our own professional discipline. And finally, I say, we should be honest to yourself, honest to the work, honest to your profession, honest to your research activity. Automatically, you will be able to adhere all these values in your personal life. And now, I would like to give you one advice or a suggestion before I come to a conclusion of my talk today. That is, be ethical, avoid plagiarism, ensure that none of your research is going to be labeled or stamped as failed because of the reason of plagiarism. What exactly we do, or many of us are doing, as Honorable Rajkumar sir has pointed out, that the quality of research is degrading day by day, and if at all you go through a document, the document is digitally available in the Wikipedia. This sort of thing we are doing. Okay, looking into the matter of others, copying it, typing it in our own Word document and saying that it is mine. This is the most unfortunate thing that we are doing. So please be ethical and avoid plagiarism. Look at this particular image that I have put right in front of you on your screen. Plagiarism. What is this all about? This is the act of presenting another's work or ideas as your own. And I have discussed about it in detail in my previous slide. So please, all my dear fellow participants, say no to plagiarism, be ethical, avoid plagiarism. And while preparing my presentation for this day, I happen to refer to so many websites. And in addition, I also used this particular book that I would like to specially mention, titled as Handbook of Research and Publication Ethics, published by Bharati Publications, New Delhi, and it is written by Nimit Chaudhary and Sara Hussain. So I give due respect to all these contributors to the field of ethics in research activity. And with this kind note, I come to the end of my presentation today, and I am really grateful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present this topic in front of you all with a cool and calm mind. I hope all of you have listened to me and understood what exactly I was trying to tell you all about.